Sound off with me, folks, on one of the oldest tales in the NBA, proving itself to be true yet again Wednesday night at TD Garden. If you are new to the NBA, I'm going to teach you something. If you've been around the NBA for a long time, you already know this. But the old adage is that the hardest game of a long road trip is the first game back after that road trip. Now, the Boston Celtics, as we all know, just set a franchise record for longest undefeated road trip ever. It just happened. They just went 6-0 on the road over the past couple of weeks. They were on the road for 12 days. They played 6 games. They had a back-to-back in there. They had some tough games. Well, they weren't so tough in the scoreboard, but they won all of them by 10-plus points. All of them, all 6. Never had a Celtics team won 6 games on a single road trip. Not only did this team do that, but it did it by double digits every single night. Now, okay, they come back home. I thought maybe the final game of that road trip might have been the tough one for them. They were in Memphis. Okay, the Grizzlies got a new coach, Ja Morant back in the lineup. They got something to play for. And by the way, the Celtics are on the final game of their trip, so you mix those things together. I thought that might have been the letdown game. I should have thought it through. I should have thought it through of what the old adage is in the NBA. It's always the game after the road trip that comes back to haunt you, and that's exactly what happened tonight when the Boston Celtics fell to the Miami Heat. This was not a super competitive game. The Celtics didn't seem like themselves from the opening tip. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't have a shot to win. They did, because they played good enough during the second half to get back into the game, but this was just a game riddled with uncharacteristic mistakes, uncharacteristic decisions. I would even classify it as poor decision-making at times. And you saw it during the third and fourth quarters when the Celtics, they were down by as many as, I believe it was 23 points, 22 points during the second half. At one point down by about 20, and they get it back down to 3. Then the lead goes up, they get it back down to 5. The lead goes up, they get it back down to 4. They had a chance throughout the second half after they made their run, but every time they got it close, they just couldn't get over that hump. For some reason or another, they could not get over that hump. And what stood out to me is that decision-making. In those critical moments, when you have a chance to make it a one-possession game and own the momentum in the game, and really put the other team on its heels, the Celtics seem to force some shots. They seem to force some passes. Just uncharacteristic things that you never see out of this team, especially with the way it's been playing lately. 15-1, 14-1 in the month of March. This team has been playing super high-level basketball, but then you see them tonight, and they just didn't look the same as they did throughout that 6-game road trip where they swept all of those games. So it was just one of those nights where you think they got a shot, they get it back to that small deficit. You think they're going to maybe rally and win this game somehow, even despite not playing all too great. But just in those critical moments, they just couldn't make the right decisions. They couldn't make the right passes. And they certainly couldn't make the shots that they did fire up. So in the end, they wind up falling to the Miami Heat, who, by the way, the Heat looked pretty ugly when the Celtics played them a couple times back in February and March. Well, that team has now won 6 straight games, so they're rolling a little bit as we get closer to the playoffs. And this could wind up being a team that the Boston Celtics play in the first round of the playoffs. Right now, the Miami Heat are in the play-in, okay? They've got a chance to possibly be the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. And the 7th seed is, as we know, going to face off with the 2nd seed. And the Boston Celtics are pretty much locked into that spot for the postseason. So this could very well be a meeting yet again. Feels like we can't get rid of the Miami Heat, but this could be a series yet again in the postseason. Celtics are going to have to try to figure that out. This is a Heat team that is rolling right now. Now, looking at this game and a few things that stand out as to why the Celtics lost, outside of those uncharacteristic decisions and uncharacteristic moves that they put on during the second half, and really the first half as well, but really in those critical moments during the second half, these are some stats that tell the story of the game. Boston, 13 turnovers. Miami, 5. Celtics, 44% from the field. Miami, 52% from the field. Boston, 13 made free throws. Miami, 24. That's the game right there with those three stats. When you turn the ball over more, when you shoot a lower percentage, and when you take and make fewer free throws, it's basically impossible to win the game. So the numbers game said the Boston Celtics were not going to win. The Miami Heat wound up coming out of TD Garden with the victory tonight, and that's that. The Celtics just didn't play well. Jayson Tatum, it was a very rare off night. We've seen him flirting with triple-doubles night in and night out over the past month and a half. Tonight, one of his worst games of the season, and it happens. Like, players can't be perfect 24/7. LeBron James in his career, he's had some bad games. Michael Jordan, he had bad games back in the day. Tonight, Jayson Tatum just didn't look like himself and didn't play to the standards that I'm sure that he holds himself on a nightly basis. So, listen, this one you just got to kind of crumble it up, throw it in the trash, and move on to the next one. And the next one's coming up Friday night, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But right now, we're going to dive into some comments from the fans. Surely they were not exactly happy and excited after this loss, but we've got a little bit of glass half full and a little bit, or some of these comments. So let's dive in. Our three comments, the first one's coming from JT0JB7.eth on these types of losses being a bit of a trend this season. I'm going to give you some stats and let you know that this isn't the first or the last time maybe that this is going to happen this season. Next up, we've got Jeter Louise, who gives his take on why the Celtics will be just fine after this loss. So there's your glass half full. And then lastly, we've got the Kingslayer, who has something to say about Boston's home record so far this season. So let's dive into the first one right here. This one is coming from JT0JB7.eth. We're talking about these losses being a little bit of a trend. All right, as I mentioned, this comment is coming in from JT0JB7.eth on X, and he says, or she says, looked a lot like the home loss to Dallas after a roadie. Now, that loss came back in early February. That was February 6th. That was following a 3-game road trip where the Celtics won all 3 games, including the final one against the Cavs in Cleveland. Then the Celtics come home and they lose 127-120 to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, listen, that loss certainly looked like this one. Just a team not really looking like themselves, not playing to the same standard that we all hold them to, that they hold themselves to. But I've got some more information to tell you. Like, this is not the only time this has happened this season outside of that Dallas one, okay? The Celtics are now on the season 0-4 in their first home game following a road trip of 4 or more games. I'll repeat that. The Celtics have now lost all 4 games that they played back at home following a road trip of 4 or more games. It's not a good trend, okay? But the good news is the Celtics don't do that again this season. So there isn't even an opportunity to have that come up again. Also, we've got to pay attention to the fact that during the postseason, that certainly doesn't happen, okay? The most you're going to play in consecutive road games is 2. All right, so the Celtics should be just fine from this perspective. This trend is not going to continue because it literally can't. Okay, the Celtics don't play a ton of road games the rest of the season. I think, what do they have left here? The most consecutive road games that they'll have the rest of the season is 2. They've got 2 more consecutive ones during the regular season, then during the postseason. As we know, during the playoffs, it's 2-2-1-1-1 format, so should be just fine. This is not going to come up again. But if we're talking about things that we can look at during this regular season, that has been a trend. I mean, you can't beat around the bush with an 0-4 record in that exact same scenario. The Celtics have emptied the tank while becoming one of the, if not the, they can tie the record for the best road record in NBA history if they win out on the road those final couple of games. But they've seemingly emptied the tank on the road and then not had any gas left in the tank when they got back home for that next home game. Now, the good news is they usually bounce back after that loss at home. Okay, then they get back into the win column. They play well again. So I'm expecting them to really play at a high level Friday night when the Phoenix Suns come to town. Again, we're going to touch on that in a little bit, but this has been a trend this season, and it's something I bet that when Joe Mazzulla is putting together his plan for next season during this offseason, he's going to point this out. Hey, guys, this is something that happened throughout last season. We can't let it happen again. So a little bit of a trend to look at. It happened again tonight. This is the 4th time this season. And if you count that game against Dallas after a 3-game road trip, that's 5 where the Celtics have lost in their first home game following a road trip. So something to look forward to possibly changing next season. But the good news is we don't have to deal with these circumstances again this season. All right, next up, Jeter Louise, it's on you. And Jeter says they'll be fine. Just shouldn't sit Al and KP on the same night. And by the way, Celtics were also missing Jrue Holiday during this game, so that's 3 of their top 6-7 players. Maybe alternate those guys so they don't miss the same game on the same night. Kata defensively is struggling. Tatum shots were way off. All right, let's start out with Al and KP. The Celtics shouldn't sit them on the same night. I don't think these are just decisions where Boston is choosing, let's sit both these guys in the same game. I think maybe they're just trying to get these guys right, and when they wake up and they're not feeling well in the morning and they're not feeling perfectly fine, it's going to be questionable, and then they're going to deem if they're going to play as the day goes on. Now, the Celtics have a medical team that is all over this stuff, okay? These guys are going through testing throughout the morning, afternoon, before the game to see if their tests are testing out to their natural numbers. And if they're not meeting their numbers, then the medical staff knows, okay, something's not right here. We should give this guy a little bit of rest because of a big toe or a knee or whatever it winds up being. The Celtics have to make those decisions. So it seems that tonight that decision was made for them, and that they had to choose to sit out Al and KP. And listen, this wasn't the second night of a back-to-back. That's usually the only time that Al Horford misses games, other than when they feel that they have to rest him because things are not going well in terms of his numbers and his testing and all that stuff. So I don't think they tried to sit them on the same night tonight. It just happened because they had to. So that's the first thing. I don't think that'll happen again. Kata defensively is struggling. Yeah, there were times out there when Neemias didn't play so great defensively and wasn't able to stay in front of his guy. There were other times when he was able to actually recover and help the Celtics from that perspective. He did have a block tonight. He did also score 7 points and grab 6 rebounds, a couple of them at the offensive end. So listen, he's not going to be perfect. He had some good possessions defensively. He had some not so good possessions defensively. But Neemias Queta, he's been pretty darn good and solid and a contributor for the Celtics throughout this season. So let's not jump on him for having a couple possessions where Slow-Mo took him to the basket and was able to score. And by the way, Slow-Mo, Kyle Anderson, he was awesome tonight. Like, he was a big reason why the Celtics were not able to get over the hump and win this game after they got back into it. He made a lot of big shots. So credit to him. Neemias Queta tried to stay in front of him, tried to stop him. It just didn't work on every possession. Last here from Jeter Louise, Tatum shots were way off. Yeah, it just happened to be one of those nights for Jayson Tatum. Winds up shooting 4 for 17 from the field. That is a woeful 23.5% from the field, 2 for 9 from distance. Just not a good night for Jayson. It seemed like he was out of rhythm. He was forcing some shots. It was like he was searching for his game, and it just never showed up for him. So he wound up resting along with the rest of the starters for the final 5 minutes of regulation. Joe Mazzulla said, let's raise that white flag. We are not winning this game with the way that we are playing. Let's get you guys some rest, and let's bounce back when we take the court Friday night against the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, I mean, some of these things you can look at, some of these things not. I think Al and KP, they're not going to miss games together again unless the Celtics are in a position where they just want to rest everyone. Wins don't really matter, and they don't, by the way. Okay? The Celtics are locked into the second seed. They're not going anywhere. So it might happen again. They might rest some other starters to get them ready for the playoffs. Neemias has given the Celtics a lot this season. Let's not jump on him for having a couple of tough possessions. And then Tatum, yeah, it just wasn't his night. It just wasn't his night, and sometimes that happens, and you got to wash it away and move on. All right, our last comment of the night coming in from the Kingslayer. Hell of a name. All right, the comment coming in from him is, this home record this year is very worrisome. Okay, right now, the Boston Celtics, after this loss, are sitting at 24-13 at home. Listen, how can you consider that very worrisome? 24-13, okay? It's not the best in the league. It's certainly not the worst in the league. In fact, if you go through the standings throughout the NBA, it's pretty much on par with every good team that's not the Cavs or the Thunder. The Cavs are 33-5 at home. The Thunder are 33-5 at home. Everyone else in the league is right around where the Celtics are, within a couple games. The Lakers are 29-9. That's the only other team in the league that doesn't have double-digit losses at home. So yes, last season, Boston was awesome at home. What was that record? Let's look that up. 37-4 at home last season. So, I mean, they were basically, you couldn't beat them inside TD Garden. But that's what the Celtics are doing on the road this season. So, would you like them to have an awesome record at home where they just can't be beat here? Yes, absolutely. It's not like I think that they just can't win games here. They have. They've won a lot of games inside TD Garden, and I think they're going to win a lot of playoff games inside TD Garden. Does that mean that they can't lose? No. Okay, every game is its own entity, but I have confidence that they're going to play at a high level at home and on the road throughout this playoff run as we get into the playoffs. So let's not get too caught up in it. 24-13, that's not bad. 32-7 on the road, that's excellent. So you put those together, you got a great team that can play well both at home and on the road. I actually think some circumstances have contributed. Like I said earlier in the episode, the Celtics just haven't been great coming off of road trips. You can't just eliminate those 4 or 5 losses, but those are 4 or 5 of the 13 right now. So I'm not getting too caught up in this. I understand why you are the Kingslayer. You want the Celtics to be basically unbeatable at TD Garden, and who knows, maybe that winds up being the case during the playoffs. It was last season. So let's hope that that continues and it comes back during this playoff run that's about to start here in a couple weeks. But I'm not getting caught up in this. I wouldn't say, even from your perspective, you can say it might be worrisome, but very worrisome to be 24-13. You're acting a little bit privileged right now, okay? All right, the Celtics have many more opportunities to right this ship at home before the season ends, okay? They're going to play at home again on Friday night. The Phoenix Suns are coming to town, and we all know the Boston Celtics just really took it to the Suns out in Phoenix, winning by 30 points just about a week or so ago. So they've got the Suns coming Friday, then they've got the Washington Wizards coming on Sunday. So a couple more opportunities this week to right the ship here at home and then head out on the road for the final 2 road games of the season before they come back for 2 straight home games against the Charlotte Hornets to close out the season. We are getting close, folks. The playoffs are right around the corner. Less than 2 weeks away from the play-in coming around where the Celtics are going to find out who they are playing in the postseason. In the meantime, let's see if everyone can get healthy, everyone's feeling good, and let's see if the Celtics can get back in the win column at home on Friday night when the Phoenix Suns come to town. I appreciate you guys taking part in the conversation, sending in your comments on X. I'm going to look forward to you doing the same again Friday night. I'll see you then.